Welcome to EDD 405. We're going to be teaching more about leadership, creating, modeling, and producing excellence. And this next few modules are going to be actually about presentation skills in the sense of the nonverbal communication first, and then we'll talk more about how you set up your presentation in later modules. So we're happy to have you back.
Right.
Oh, I just went backwards. There we go.
Can't go backwards from the beginning.
I know. Okay. Themes for this module.
The first thing we're going to talk about will be personal training states of excellence.
Which is how do you as a presenter find that sweet spot of uptime, presentation, flow, competency, and so on.
Right.
And we're going to about congruency, which is part of that.
Mm-hmm. And then we'll talk about Dorothy Sarnoff mantra. She developed speech dynamics, and she had some really good ideas.
Mm-hmm. And then we have a concept we'd like to share with you just as sort of a little other perspective with some fourfold way with some archetypical teacher, visionary, healer, and warrior. And then we'll do an inventory of having you step into what's easy for you and what you might want to stretch into a little bit.
And then we'll talk about platform skills, more specifically about nonverbal platform skills this time.
Yes, right. Because that, as we said, communication is redundant, so we want our gestures to be matching what it is we're presenting. So one of the first sets is how we deliver our points of focus. Are we looking directly there? Are we looking here? Are we looking at different perspectives? So we'll deal with that.
Then we'll do hand-eye coordination or eye-hand coordination.
Works both ways.
If I coordinate my eyes to what it says.
Yeah. And then we'll be talking about how to use the instructor's space. And of course, here on camera, we don't have a very large instructor space. So we will be giving you some exercises. I know most of you will be in a classroom or in an office setting or out in the field. You'll have a little more freedom of movement than we have right here.
And other times, maybe less. You might be kind of stuck behind a microphone without a remote.
True, right. So these things can be adapted from taking up a lot of space to just using your hand gestures to indicate, right? So the purpose of this module is to have you aware of the tools and how much your nonverbals support or distract from your message. And we want to talk about various types of presenting you'll be doing, kind of different kind of coaching modules. And some of our themes for this module is how do you build rapport with a small group, a large group? How do you create an environment that's safe? How do you find those states of excellence for yourself? And what state of mind do you want your group, as a group mind, to get into?
Right. And we'll actually do a little more of that later on in the modules, more about group dynamics. And the presentation skills and the group dynamics, a lot of the techniques and concepts flow right together. So it's...
And finding that sense of knowing your content first, as we're presupposing before we begin. So this will be for those of you who have that left brain lead. You'll enjoy these little fine-tuned points, which are so important to make your message congruent.
Right. So we've already talked about modeling excellence. And basically, we talked about, okay, when you're talking about leaders, what leaders resonate with you? What are those qualities that you recognize in leaders that you want to adapt to your style? Yes. And we're going to basically be doing the same thing with presenters. And
it will matter what size group you're dealing with and what your content is and so on. That will sort of dictate some of this. So an example would be if you wanted to model writing or you wanted to get into a writing style, you would get into the flow and the style of someone that you really relate to and then adapt it to your own way. Right. So we're not plagiarizing, we're not copycatting, but we're finding out...
We're respecting the style.
Different styles that work. And then once you recognize an overall style and purpose that of different various presenters.
Right. And their focus may be more through the filters of sales or education, motivation, inspiration, or entertaining even.
Yes, right. And so we have many purposes being here on the platform. And then we'd like you to know, well, so far, just do a little inventory of your own thing of presenting, whether it's just in a small group or one-on-one, or if you've had a lot of experience addressing a larger crowd. What are some of your challenges? What are some of your strengths, right?
I actually heard that what the fear of public speaking for some people is more, there's more fear there than living or dying.
Which we know relates back to some of our early modules about is your power coming from inside out, or are you being dictated to by the outside as your identity? So the more you have that internal congruence and passion and excitement about your message, the less there'll be a worrisome about someone else dictating who you are.
Well, it's interesting because we had talked about age regression, and I'd have to check with Marilyn her experience. My experience tends to be more people have imprints where beliefs were formed about presenting that came around the third grade, second, third, fourth
Yes.
grade. And that also happens to be that point where we're more able to hold two concepts at the same time, where we're more capable of recognizing reactions from people when we say something that may not be perfect.
Right. And those are the ages where we first have to get up and read aloud in class or present an oral report in class, so that third, fourth, fifth grade. And I know my son was a great reader, but he was reading beyond his sort of chronological age.
Mm-hmm.
And so he got up to give a report, and he came home and says, "Mom, everyone laughed at me because I said democracy instead of democracy."
Which,
Because he had never said it out loud or
Yeah.
associated that word with the sound of the word. He'd heard it, but
well, and look how it's spelled.
exactly. So it doesn't take
But
much.
it's still an imprint,
Yeah.
whether it was an innocent mispronunciation
Mhm.
or something that was even cruel. The perception from the child is going to be very similar.
Yeah. So sometimes you'll have some imprint work to do if you're coaching someone to be able to present to a group or feeling congruent about their presentation. We want you to have an internal experience of being a good presenter, as well as having the knowledge of what the tools are that you'll be able to help somebody else
Right.
also become a good presenter or clean up their act, so to speak. So some of the suggested tools and processes that are intended to enhance confidence and congruence, some of the skills that you've had already would be circle of excellence, compelling self-image with a specific behavior, and that would be sense of your overall self-image, and then other hemispheric integration techniques.
Nice.
So we'll backtrack on some of this.
Okay. Then we're always talking about the primary goal is to live life in balance, and in balance, of course, considers ecology. You know, how does any act or any gesture, anything we do, have an influence on other aspects of our system or other systems that connect to it?
Right, and congruency is that word that means everything is aligned. We're in a yes space, or it could be a no space. However, it's
This
definite.
could be congruently no.
Yes, exactly, which is a good way to have a boundary.
Could be congruently no, yes.
So as a presenter, you need to be prepared with your content. So as we go through having you do the experiential exercises, choose something that's relevant for you, a little talk you have to give, or a presentation you might be giving, or I know as you know, when we're looking to build our practices, sometimes we need to do some in-house training or lunch and bunch and things like that. So find something relevant for you that's a content, so that as you're practicing these tools, you won't have to be thinking about that part of it. That's more, you know what you're going to say. It allows you to be more congruent there. And then we can pay attention. Remember our 7 plus or minus 2, that the brain needs to have, when we're learning something new, some bandwidth to be able to pay attention to the new things. So we want some things just on automatic.
Right.
And whenever you're talking, I know this is one thing Alice taught me so much. She said, you have to believe in what you say. If not, I can't congruently deliver a message if I'm, like say if I was being a spokesperson for a product that I didn't like, I could not in my integrity do that.
You see you hearing stammering talking about it.
I know, right. So, turning to Dorothy Sarnoff, she was was known for her work in speech dynamics. There we go.
Speech dynamics.
Speech dynamics, there we go. And she worked, I understand, at the UN. She trained diplomats and ambassadors and people who were having to come from different languages, and how do you talk to a cross-cultural group and get your point across and so on. The piece we're going to take out of her work is something that I use all the time, I'm pretty sure. And it's a little mantra that you can develop inside your own head that will initially give you a connection to the group and build rapport with your group.
Well, and for me, what the mantra does is it reminds you why you're there. It's like, okay, if you're not glad you're there, you're probably going to fall on your face at some level. we have to show up when we're a presenter. At some level, we have to be present. And knowing that I want to be here really makes a difference in how you come across.
There's a little graphic that I like to use with this, and it's, if you think of a circle and you have your 4 points on the circle, top
Like a
and
compass,
side. Yeah, like a compass, yeah. So if we were at the north, at the top, at the beginning, somehow I want to portray to my group that I'm really happy to be here. I might say something about what I've learned about them or what I'm excited about in my message, but somehow I'm portraying to my group that I am happy to be with you.
And Marilyn, and everybody's going to have a different style and different purpose for every time they present. One of the things I really admire about Marilyn that she does very well is she shows up with a smile. She really is happy to be there, and I think people can see that before she even comes up to the platform.
Yeah, well, teaching's exciting for me, and I've found over the years of mentoring different teachers and trainers and so on that inherent love of connecting with people and sharing and having them get it, I can't teach that. That sort of comes from within. And I can teach structure, I can teach content, I can teach strategies.
You might be able to tease it out.
Yes.
You work with,
And
if they
help
have
them build
any
that
insecurities that may be restricting, you can do those things.
Yes.
And I'm guessing that narcissists are not great teachers. They may be great presenters and they have skills, but they're not really good teachers.
Oftentimes, yes.
Yeah.
Unless it's a lot about, look at me.
And a lot of them know how to do that.
Yeah. So, and then the next part of our compass point would be to acknowledge the group. I'm glad you're here. In other words, these people have taken their time, maybe spent their money to participate, to be here, to show up.
Mm-hmm.
And so to value that and honor that, I think is very important to do.
Mm-hmm. Another thing with credibility is I know what I know. I may not know everything. I have to know enough about my topic that it's worth me showing up.
Right.
And I don't know everything. And there are groups who will test that. They'll throw things out just to see if your ego is in check and different things like that. So if you begin, I don't know everything, but I do know what I know. And so I don't know everything isn't more of an approachable, but I do know what I know, and that's credible. And that creates safety.
And my gesture for that, and my feeling inside is, I know what I know. It's a very calm, congruent, centered feeling inside of me.
Mm-hmm.
And then the final point on our compass, if we've gone around, is to say, and I care about you. In other words, I care that by the end of this time we're together, whether it's a 15-minute little quick chat or whether it's a longer training, I want each segment, each day, each month to have something that person goes home with that makes their life improve or be better or enhances it in some way. They've learned something.
Yeah, and regardless of how you start out, they may believe that you care about them in the beginning, and it will be something that needs to be demonstrated throughout.
Yes.
The more personal the information gets, the more important that is.
Right. So I'd like to give you a little demonstration of that. We're going to have you create your own for your content. So if I was going to be training a group of psychologists, right, because I often do that, and I know already I have a general group mindset for psychologists, and what I'm going to be presenting on my topic and so on. So I may step up to the platform. I generally don't like to teach behind a podium, and sometimes that's the setup and you have to. But I'm certainly going to say, usually in those kind of venues I'm being introduced, so I don't have to say necessarily who I am or my background. Sometimes you need to do that for yourself and be prepared with a quick little biographical sketch that gives you credibility. You don't need to know your history or where you were born, but people do want to know, how do you know what you know? How do I know you know it and you're not just pulling from air? So if I've been introduced, I may just say, I've been looking forward to being here for so long, and I'm really glad that this is the day that you and I get to really share and connect. And I'm really glad that you took the time to be here, and I know that your time is important and valuable. So in my message today, we're going to really make sure that I know what I'm going to be presenting, and I'm excited about the topic, and I want you to go home with something that in tomorrow or in a week or a month, you'll have tools that will enhance your life. So let's begin.
Right. So she's incorporated that not only as a part of her state of being before she steps up to the podium or to the presenter place, she actually incorporates it into what she is actually saying. So she's showing up that way, and then she's sharing it with the group. I'm been looking forward. I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad you're here. I know it might have taken a lot of effort, and I care about you. I want you to have some tools that you can take with you and use them today, tomorrow, the next day, in a month. And I know what I know. In her gesture, this seems to be one of those universal gestures that says, I know what I know. And so she's
centered congruency,
Right.
for me anyway.
Right.
Yeah. Which, as you remember, that becomes an anchor now. If someone does that for me, we're in alignment.
Right.
If they show me that gesture, I go, oh, you get it. It's that right down the middle, centered, I've got my balance, I know what I'm talking about.
Right.
Yeah. So another situation, would you be willing to do one you might do with a smaller group of like a team?
a team.
Yeah, like your
What kind of,
a sports team or something.
okay,
Or maybe a small group of teenage golfers that are just learning their high school team.
okay. High school golf team, and I'm going to go present something there. So it's hard to do that actually to a camera. We can speak to
I
a camera,
know.
but it's hard to talk to a group when there's
No
the
group.
group on the other
You
side.
have to
So,
have
okay.
good imaginations.
So I'm delighted to be here. You know, I played high school golf. I know that it's an exciting time of your life, and there are some things that I learned that I really want to be able to share with you. So with that in mind, we'll begin. I think I just kind of
Yeah, so it doesn't have to take long, but what it does is gets the speaker breathing, right? It gets you started. It honors, and sometimes you need to acknowledge the person that is your sponsor, and those
Right.
kinds of things can fit into that little part. And it gets the ball rolling on a way of state building and rapport building before you launch into your content. I attended a presentation the other day with someone. It was a brand new group, and he's well trained and well versed in communication skills, left brain lead, lots of details, and he just launched into content. And there was a lot of questioning from the group saying, well, what about this, and what's the logistics on that, and a lot of questions that he might not have otherwise had he built a little rapport first and given the big picture. So we've given you the themes for this module already. So today, again, is not so much about content as the nonverbals, and yet we wanted to get you started with a mantra that really is very healthy and helpful.
right.
And if you choose to read some of her work, there's some other helpful hints in her books. That would be on your own, right? Not required. This is the piece that I thought was her piece that was valuable. So with that,
We'll pause just a moment
I think
before.
we'll pause for a moment. We want you to take time to practice that. There's an experiential exercise in your handouts and your manual, and then we'll